So before I start, what I'm going to do is, how many guys are familiar with Vagrant?
Never heard of it.
Okay. So with Vagrant, you can actually install it runs on VirtualBox, and you can install a virtual server on your laptop. So I've got a Precise, the Ubuntu Precise 64, the 64-bit version running on my laptop inside a VirtualBox. So the server is right here on this laptop. And I logged into the server using Vagrant, which is, you can use VirtualBox or whatever. I had, on this virtual machine, I did port forwarding by editing the Vagrant file. So instead of port 80, it's going to 8080, which is another port where my server is going to respond to, this virtual server is going to respond to. And then I downloaded the install file from devPanel, and I'll go into devPanel and the history behind it, but I want to get this thing going first because it will take some time to run. So I downloaded the installed script from devPanel using wget. I made it an executable, and I'm going to run it now. So it goes out and checks all the dependencies and stuff, and it'll build the server so I can actually use it as a web server. So it'll build it and configure it. So while it's doing that in the background, what I want to do is go through the slides. So how many people have used WebEnabled? Okay, so just a handful. So WebEnabled allows you to do installs of Drupal and other applications. We started it. It allows you to do cloning. It allows you to set up Git repository or SVN, and allows you to invite users to your project, and they can add keys, and they automatically get keys are added automatically onto the site. They can log in, SSH in, and so on. You can do it, you can set up sites for free, or you can, and the sites last for like, I think, and you get full SSH access, but the sites last for like 30 days. Yeah. Or you get a paid plan, and then you can continue, like $10, I think we give you like 5 sites. So you can have up to 5 sites, or you can get a VPS for $20 and, have fun. So over time, we were like, we have a whole bunch of servers now. I think we're managing about 60 servers or something. So, and it's like physical servers, and it's just a pain to do that. But we heard from companies that they wanted to manage using WebEnabled. They wanted to manage their own servers. And we heard from hosting companies that they wanted to use WebEnabled to manage their servers and offer that to their clients. So that was kind of the background of how devPanel came into being. We started developing this version, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and we're finally to a point where we're going to release it soon. We're still not ready to release it. So, but it allows you to actually manage servers that are on your laptop. It allows you to manage servers on any hosting company in your office and so on. And it gives you all the functionality of WebEnabled and more. So I'll walk you through some of that stuff. So it's So the new version, the devPanel, we're calling it devPanel because it's more like control panel for developers, or more play on cPanel, like it's like cPanel for developers. So you can run it on your laptop, desktop, VirtualBox, local server. At any hosting company, you can get a server at any hosting company and install it there, link to it. You can do Amazon, GoGrid, BlackMesh, whatever server, wherever you're running, and manage those servers and move sites between them. So you could do things like that. And then even if the server has a public address, great. We'll go do the install for you. If the server does not have a public address, then if it's behind NAT, then you have to download the install file, just like I did on my virtual machine, and I ran it. So, and once you run the install file, now this server will actually reach out to our controller and continue talking to the controller. So if you have commands, if you manage, you can actually manage your server from the site. So. It runs on any distro, so we've been running it on OWL, which is a hardened Red Hat version for security reasons. But this new version will run on Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, whatever, even on Raspberry, and we have one version. Actually, we're working on the Android version, so you can actually set up a dev server right on your phone and, and run it on there.
That's incredible.
I've been running that already.
I know, right? Finally, which would be of no practical use, just for giggles.
Because we can.
Yeah, because we can. So it actually, the controller is set up so it can run and manage, bare bones servers. You can run it. You can set up a staging or a dev server in-house behind it. Oh, this red line is the firewall. For those guys that haven't seen a firewall before, no. So
it's permeated for
so inside the firewall, you can set up your servers, and the controller still manages them. You can set up virtual machines, and we still manage them, and you can have production servers and a whole bunch of them as well. So from an ERD, from an architecture perspective, we have users that can be grouped into teams, and this was one of the requests that we've gotten a lot, is to be able to take users, put them into teams. So when you create sites, you can actually just assign a team instead of re-inviting the whole user list over and over again. So you have teams, and then teams can be assigned to sites or to manage servers and or to manage repos. And that functionality comes together inside of projects. So you can define a project, and you can put in servers, and you can put in teams in that project. You can put in repos and sites. But if you put in any servers inside a project that the team has access to, then they can create and destroy sites and repos inside that server. They have full control of that server. Yes?
Could you have teams that control multiple projects?
Yes. Yes. So every project, you can have multiple teams in a project, and a team can be in multiple projects. So you create a project, you give it resources. So giving it resources is like adding a server or adding a site. So if you just add a site from a server that's outside the team, then they can't manage the server, but they can manage the site. But if you add a server in there, then they can manage everything in that server. And they can create repos, and they can create sites and so on, or applications. Later on, what we're doing is allowing people, and this is kind of on the roadmap right now, is allowing people to sell sites or templates and themes and things like that in a marketplace to other users, and you would sell it just from your own site. You don't even have to sell through our marketplace. We don't take a commission or anything like that. We just provide the infrastructure on the back end. And if somebody buys it, and if they have a devPanel installed on their servers, then the installation is instant and the site comes up and running. And the other thing we're doing for hosting companies, because we're actually targeting hosting companies with this, is we're allowing people, the hosting companies' users, to sell shared space on their servers, so they can sell 1 or 2 sites. It also allows some of the companies, some of the software companies to, or if you're creating a distro, it allows you to actually demo your distro on your own server so people can get an instance of your distro on your server and log in and play around with it and then destroy it. So that's kind of the roadmap, and those are things we're working on. And I've just got screenshots, and I'll go. We can do live. We can mess around on the live site as well later on. But this is, when you log in, this is what you see, and these are going to be announcements and things like that. So that's your home, and you have your favorites, and all the controls are on the top. You go into servers, you'll see a list of your servers. You see if they're online or offline. So your servers can be personal servers that you've connected to your account, or they can be cloud servers or whatever. So you see the servers, these servers are online. And if you go inside a server, you can do things like you can add IP addresses, change IP addresses, default IP addresses, change password, reboot servers, add SSH keys that gives people access to the root access to your servers. You can see what sites are on the server, what repos are on the server, and which projects the server belongs to, or is part of. And a server can be part of multiple projects. So under sites, if you go under sites, you'll see a list of your sites, which ones are active and which ones are disabled. So you can disable sites. You can delete sites, mark them favorite, and they show up here on the site. If you select a site, it goes into the site, gives you a little overview things. You can add notes to the servers or sites. But in sites, you can do things like you can lock it. So you can put an htaccess lock, and you can put multiple locks on a site. If you click on application, this would tell you it has Drupal installed on it, so it'll give you a link to Drush, and it'll give you a link to reset the Drupal root password or the admin password, so if you lose that. Backup and restore allows you to do take snapshots. It's okay. So backup and restore allows you to take snapshots and restore them. And you can restore them on this server or any other server, or you can download it. Oops. So you can restore things to this server or any other server, or you can, or download it and save it. Clone and copy is basically clone a site. Manage your cron jobs, DNS. And we actually give, you can manage DNS through like devPanel.com. So we have name servers running there. You can add databases like MySQL and Postgres and things like that. You can set up email accounts, or not email accounts, but more like email aliases under the domain. So it forwards to your Gmail or something, or you can delegate the email to Google Apps. And we'll be adding other providers as well. File browser, Git, SCM. So right now we just support Git. And we'll be adding Git flow type of process in there as well as a workflow. IP addresses for the site. So if the server has multiple IP addresses, you can assign dedicated IP address. Change the password to the site account, the SSH password. You can add SSH keys, certificates. You can do sync or overwrite. You can take a site, you can overwrite another site with it. You can manage URL, so once you do a development, and then you can actually you can assign a URL on top of that devPanel URL. And then you can see what projects this site is using. Same thing with the repos. You can create repos and see, and then you can see who your users are, what teams are. You go inside of teams, it'll show you who the members are, and the invites are managed right here. Let's see, so projects. So this was a big change that we made in this version, is that the introduction of projects. So you have multiple projects, and you go into a project, and you'll see, if you go under sites, you'll see different categories where the sites are. So these can all be on one server or on multiple servers, but you'll see you can create your own categories, so that you could say staging, production, testing. This one was we were just testing here. So, and then you can have multiple sites inside each of these. So you can have a dev branch and so on. And this is going to tie back to GitFlow. How many people use GitFlow, by the way? Okay, so just a handful. But it's you know, it's a methodology for managing the projects and managing sites and resources attached to it.
And you're going to allow arbitrary branching on the different servers?
Yeah, so you can do branching. With GitFlow will allow you to do branching, and then as soon as you branch, you'll get a URL with it.
Okay.
So you can actually go to that, when you make your changes, you can actually go to that URL and see with GitFlow, if you're making your changes as a developer, you can see your changes in effect. And then you can click merge, and it'll actually merge it back into your dev or and then using the GitFlow, using the same interface, you'll be able to take the dev branch and you know, put it into release, and then merge it from release to production, so to master.
Are there aliased commands for devPanel to do that via the command line, or would a GitFlow command do the same thing?
On devPanel, you'll get, when you install GitFlow or when you activate GitFlow on a project, it'll actually install GitFlow command extensions or the shell extensions on your server.
Right.
Plus give you a page to manage it. So the thing that we want to do is actually, right here you see where it says servers, sites, teams, repos, and users inside a project. We're going to add a workflow in there. So GitFlow would be one of the workflows that you can activate. And as there are other workflows, we can add other workflows to it, or you can even define your own workflow if you like. But that GitFlow will actually tie the repos, the sites, everything together. If you activate GitFlow, it'll actually install all the GitFlow shell extensions and everything, and tie everything together nicely inside a project. So you can go to the workflow and you can see how people are branching, visually see how branching is being done and who's working on what features and things like that. And this will be, again, this we want to be able to allow any hosting company to offer this to their customers, just as they do cPanel. So in addition to cPanel, they can offer devPanel for developers. And then if you have your own server running devPanel, you can actually link the two and move things around between the two. So you can link your server and a production server inside a project, and then move sites around inside the project. So under applications, we have, Drupal 8 is also up and running, and we have Symfony as an application if you want to try it out. So you can actually install Symfony onto a site, get a URL, and just go in and mess around with Symfony. But all the pieces are installed for you. And most of the we're rolling it out to the Drupal community because we're involved with the Drupal stuff. So, but this entire thing was written in Symfony. So we've been on Symphony 2. So we've been working on this for. I think we ended up when we did the selection for the framework. It was Symphony 2 versus CodeIgniter, and then Symphony 2 won in our internal contest. So we ended up selecting it before Drupal 8 selected Symphony 2 for its own use. So we're happy to see that. On the roadmap, we're going to be adding a marketplace, and we already have some conversations going forward with some of the theme providers for using this as the back end, where they can do one-click install to any hosting company for templates, fully built sites, and things like that. You'll be able to sell shared hosting if you want on your servers. You can sell apps and sites hosted on your server. You can sell monthly buffet-style subscriptions, like subscribe to my package, and every month I'm going to add a theme, and you can go, you'll get this theme show up in your account. So you can do things like that. And you can do things like app-only access. So some of the application providers that we've talked to, they have commercial apps, and they don't want to give out SSH access. They just want to give you an instance of their app, so you can use it and you can try it and things like that. So you'll be able to set up that for your distros if you want. And for our marketplace, we don't actually keep any of the dollars. We just provide the infrastructure. So you just buy the plan, and the dollars are between you and the customer, and we don't want to be involved in the support or refunds or anything like that. So you take care of all that stuff.
So there's no payment gateway through devPanel?
No.
Okay.
You build your own payment gateway, you take the payment on your site.
So you're just offering the platform?
The platform, exactly. So you take the payment, and once you're done with the payment, using your keys, you tell us to take a copy of the site and give it to Mike or to somebody else, whatever. The entire thing was rebuilt. The entire back end was built using API. So the front end that we've built uses, everything that the front end does is through an API. So once you have API access as developers, then you'll be able to program whatever functionality and script whatever functionality that you want to sell from your sites and things like that. Git flow, I talked about Git flow. We want to integrate that with the repos, with Git repos, and allow people to optionally use it with projects. So if they don't want to use Git flow, they don't have to. And then there's a command line interface, and I'll show you that because I started that earlier. The install on my virtual machine. It works seamlessly with Vagrant, that people can use anonymously. So you don't have to have an account on devPanel to use the command line version. You can download and install any of the freely available public applications on your server and go crazy. So you can do a lot of this functionality without actually having an account on devPanel. But if you get an account, or if you have an account, you can actually link. So after you've done some work, you can actually link that virtual machine back, the anonymous account back to your account, and the virtual machine shows up on your account. You can do cloning, backing on the sharing and distributing sites. So you can use it in classrooms and things like that. You're registered to see, and you can script pretty much everything. All the scripts that we put on the servers and things like that are going to be open source, so you can actually modify it, contribute it back. You can add plugs. So there are people out there that are working on like plug for solar and plug for There's some other things I forget, but there's some different plugs that people are working on. So
You do solar now? I didn't know you guys did that.
you could do, yeah,
Oh.
solar, and right now we don't.
Oh.
We've done it for as a custom install on WebEnabled for different clients, but going forward with devPanel, you'll be able to say install solar, and it'll actually not only install it, it'll integrate it with your sites. You can install Nginx, and then you can choose per site. You'll be able to choose which one you want to use. You want to use Nginx for this, or you want to use Apache for it, so they can live side by side on your servers. So you can pretty much script and automate anything or everything. And
I'd like beta access.
yeah, okay. So if you like beta access, let me know. We're actually working with Intel as well, and they've been actually distributing WebEnabled as part of Intel hybrid cloud offering that they're putting servers into different places. So WebEnabled is kind of part of that. They've rebranded that, but with devPanel, we want to put devPanel. We want to put they want to put WebEnabled servers into agencies and companies and things like that, where they can do their development. So you can get a free server from Intel or from Dell, and we're giving away a Raspberry Pi. So
how
so
do
if
you get, I mean, do I contact Intel or Dell? And
no, you would contact me, and then we'll go through a process where they'll evaluate different applicants and say, okay, you'll get servers for use in your work, and then we'll write case studies for it.
So this is a physical bare metal, or?
Yeah, physical bare metal server from Intel and from Dell that you get as a dev server, and you use it for development internally behind the firewall, still using devPanel, and
So I can be my own platform as a service.
yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
That's what
you can sell applications, you can sell shared hosting, and the entire thing. The beauty of it is you have to install cPanel or Plesk, and then you have to update it and this and that. And with devPanel, you don't have to do any of it. So if there's a bug or a patch or anything, we just apply it on our end, and it either pushes it out where scripts need to be updated in every server, or it on the front end, any of the apps that any of the functionality that's broken, you don't have to update devPanel on your server. It's all hosted. So and most of it will be all the stuff that does the heavy lifting, all the scripts that do the heavy lifting are open source, and it's free to use for developers, for agencies, and things like that. So the free version is ad supported. So as you'll see on the screen, let me go back and show you one of the pages. As you see, there's a little bar here. There's nothing down here. So these will be ads from hosting companies trying to sell you servers, and from other template providers. And if you're using Drupal, then there'll be Drupal service providers giving you ads and things like that, and making offers. So we know which platform you're using. If you're using WordPress, then it'll be WordPress training and things like that.
If we're selling apps using the devPanel platform, is there any way we can advertise?
Yeah.
No, they don't want your money.
No. That's why we let you sell. That's why we let you sell the apps for free, and we let you sell the used panel for free, because we want you to advertise.
Okay.
And if you advertise, then we make money, and hopefully you make money. So.
And how much is the non-advertised?
We haven't set a price yet, so it's going to be, but it's going to be cheap. We don't, it's going to be
$10 a month.
So something like that, actually.
Maybe we'll set a price right now.
Access is free, so.
There's a free version, but for hosting companies, if hosting companies want it, then it'll be competitive to what cPanel charges.
I don't know what to charge.
I don't know that either, but I know that they charge something, so we'll be competitive to that. And
They were kind of expensive last time.
are they?
Yeah, I thought they were kind of out there.
All right, so good money.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
Or you can come in
we'll
and-
sell it. Yeah, we'll sell it for $1 less or
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
$2?
Like Microsoft does with the cloud.
yeah, that's right. We'll price it like Amazon. You know, so. Anyway, so that's it. If you guys are, I know I'm talking to some folks at MediaCurrent to help us figure out the Git flow setup, because they actually use the Git flow, and Kevin talked about it today, and I was very impressed. So thank you. And but when we have the Git flow stuff set up, it's a page that'll just show up on the devPanel without you adding anything to it. So let me show you the command line version. So now I've installed this on my server, which is running on this machine, on my little Mac, and it's asking me what kind of network I want to install, 1 or 2. So I'm gonna, since it's running on my local thing, I'm gonna do a NAT. Okay. And I'm gonna say devPanel, and it says, okay, here's what you can do. You can use an alternate config file, you can enable, and this is like hot off the presses, so if it works, it works. If it doesn't work,
Typo there.
yeah, I'm sure there is. So there's a ton of typos there. So, and there might be some typos in the code itself. So I can actually say devPanel app, and it says, oh, if you want to do section in the apps, you can list all your apps. So I'm going to say devPanel app list. Ooh, look at that. So all these apps I can install. So I want to install app 1. And so instead of list, I'm going to say install. So I'm going to say devPanel app install. It says, hey, wait a minute. You have to give me app ID, and you have to give me the name. An optional password will be app password, and description and version and so on. So I'm going to say app install.
Drupal's number 1.
Yeah, so
We know.
name will be say Drew 7 X app ID will be 1, and app password will be
Ben is my hero.
That's really long.
It's hard to guess.
Ben rules.
Ben
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard.
Ben rules.
And the first beer goes to Sean.
Sean.
True first blood.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Okay, so it tells me site successfully scheduled for creation. You can track your status with sites list. So I'm going to say devPanel sites list. Oh!
We have a bug.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, wait. This tells me
Oh,
missing.
So you can access it by the short name that you.
No, that was before.
No, that was before you.
That was
Oh,
before.
right. Okay.
No, you're fine. It looks.
Well,
Okay.
from the help, when you use that Drew 7, shouldn't you put that in quotes?
Oh, wait.
Drew said
You know
once,
what?
Yeah.
E.g. you have 9 projects in place. Maybe the shop.
It's not sites, it's
Site, yeah.
site.
Typo.
What's a typo?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a site ID 728. This is being awaiting deployment.
So Salim, I know I came in late, so what, is this actually calling back home?
It is. So what it's doing is, I'm gonna tell the guy.
You got them on standby?
Please check. Actually, we were doing a presentation. Who's now the CEO of Intel? Who- Yeah, the guy who it wasn't the. Anyways, he wasn't the CEO at that time, but he was doing a presentation, and there was a big joke. It was like, "Oh, Salim inside." I was on backup. So when he did stuff, they were like on the phone. Do you see it happening? Do you see it on the server? I was like, yeah, I see it on the server. It's like, oh, okay, he's gonna press enter. Like, okay. So there's a big running joke. It's like Salim inside. So it's Vinicius inside this time.
Oh, there you go. Is that how
Um,
you say his name, Vinicius?
Vinicius.
Vinicius.
Where does he?
I call him VMN.
Yeah,
That's what Mark calls it.
I know. So, Brazil.
Oh,
So he's in Brazil.
I
and-
never would.
Oh, so he's awake.
I
That's
thought it
good.
was like maybe a Russian name.
Well, no, I mean, it's not.
all our guys
He's
are
not
like,
making work at 4 in the morning.
no, it's like Russia, Philippines, Brazil, Australia. We have Australia.
Oh,
Yeah, so. Anyway, so it's awaiting deployment. Awaiting deployment.
So I guess this is where I'm not sure what's happening. I'm sure it's because I came in late. So you're making these commands and it's calling back to the server. And is the server doing the deployment and then pushing it over the wire back to your
It's
virtual
pulling
box?
it.
Pulling it, okay.
Yeah, so we could do deploys in two ways. We can push if the server has if you're, as they say, the minion. If your server has a public IP, then we can push to it.
Okay.
If your server has a private IP, then it has an agent that actually checks every 5 minutes, and
Then it pulls.
if there is something there in the queue waiting for it to execute, then and there's like encrypted packages waiting for your server to pick up.
Okay.
So it'll pick up those instructions and it'll run it. And if there is something to run, then it throttles out from, instead of being 5 minutes to every minute to 30 seconds to 5 seconds to 1 second. So it throttles out depending on the activity going back and
Okay.
forth, and then it just throttles down if there's no activity.
so you're doing this locally?
I am.
Go out to a WebEnabled server and pull.
devPanel server, and it's
Pulling it in, or you're showing devPanel server basically from here?
no, it's pulling it in. So when I'm running the command line, all it does is the command line actually has an anonymous account now with devPanel. So it actually sent instructions saying, I need this.
Right.
So that's packaged up and waiting for it to pull, and then the command line, and then we prompt. So then it pulls the package down and does the install and everything.
So how come you're doing that?
What do you mean?
So it seems like you're going a long way, you're going through LA to get to Atlanta from here.
No, sorry. The command line does not send instructions. It just it tells the server what it's doing, because when you transfer it to your account, all that history comes over with the anonymous account. So the command line just tells the server, but actually just pulls the stuff down.
So-
Because all the scripts are on my server now.
Right, that's what I was thinking. So when this is done, you're gonna have this in your Vagrant box, or you're gonna have it in your account by WebEnabled?
I'm going to have this in my Vagrant box. WebEnabled doesn't know who I am right now, or devPanel doesn't know who I am. So
They're anonymous. Okay.
yeah.
All
So right now, to look at this, if I go into Chrome and I type in this URL with the 8080 port, okay, well, it tells me it works, but it doesn't have.
Apache works.
Apache works. It doesn't have. It's still awaiting deployment.
So I guess still my question is, I can't do this, even though this is gonna be running on your Vagrant machine when it's done.
Right, and then I can, from here, from Vagrant, I can actually move it to another box. So if I have other boxes on my account, on my devPanel account,
Right.
then I can just move it using the GUI or even using the command line. I can just move sites around, I can copy it, I can clone it.
But it's also running in that, is there an alias, so that web browser you just pulled open though is up on a web-enabled server?
No, this is local, 88
Oh, okay,
is
okay.
local.
Oh.
So,
How do you resolve dependencies on the local box? How will you, if you don't have the lamp stack in order? How
when
will
you install devPanel on your local machine, it knows, okay, and then you use the devPanel command line to bring down, say, Symfony. It knows it needs to add all this other stuff.
Oh, okay.
So the script that actually adds Symfony has all the dependencies built in, or the script will call APT, or the script will call RPM, or whatever it needs to call to install those packages for you.
So you
So that-
execute it as root?
Yes.
The whole
So
script?
no. So devPanel you don't execute as root. devPanel knows it has its own root access, so it knows when to go in and run things as root on your server.
That's scary.
Right. So, but that's something that, you know, these are scripts that are under our control, and they're publicly available, and you can see what it does. So, but those are scripts that we verified
But
that are okay to
if
run.
I'm correct, you said, okay, you push updates out. Say you get corrupted for some reason. This hacker pushes updates out to all of the other people and then has root access to all the servers?
We have a way to disconnect things, and the hacker can't push updates out to, I mean, we have to actually accept your submissions for it to go through. So if it passes through our code review, if you've done something and it passes through our code review, then you could potentially push something out to everyone.
Right.
But if it
Sounds
We're-
like there's like something
Yeah.
still a little fishy.
But it's like any other package. I mean, if you download, if you're downloading updates to Bash, if somebody updates Bash and puts in a backdoor and everybody updates it, then you've installed a virus. So.
So by the time you install, let's say, an instance of Drupal 7, devPanel already took care of having the prerequisites for it to run properly, is what you're saying. And devPanel install time.
Hold on just a second. Let me do this. Please paste the URL on.
Tag it on the end
Paste.
of the.
Salim, I don't want to be rude, I have to go get ready for the last.
Yeah.
Hey, are you gonna do a coding for a cause what's going on tomorrow? Like as a
We should.
final?
No, you are.
Oh, okay.
Well, did you put a slide?
You want a slide? I like a slide.
Yeah, I have time to do it.
8 slides, get enough?
8, yeah.
To answer your question, yeah. So we take care of installing, the lamp stack and all the dependencies. So all you have to say is, I want to install Drupal. And if you want to install Drupal, then we know, is the lamp stack installed? If it's not installed, we'll have to install it, configure it, and so on.
That's awesome. That's great.
Anyways, this is it. So thank you.